You are now in tune to the Keys to the City podcast.
And ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another edition of Keys to the City. I'm your host, Trevor Keys, alongside the big brother T3, Ted Keys. You can check out Keys to the City on all social media platforms. Got some good baseball going on. How about the Astros right now? Ted, you sent me a memory today. We went to the Yankees. That was the last Yankee game I've been to. Was that ALCS game, Game 6. That was the last time I went to a Yankee game. You've been to plenty of Yankee games since, but it seems so long ago. That was 4 years ago. And the Houston Astros are still in the ALCS, and the New York Yankees are nowhere to be found.
How about the Texas Rangers?
I know, 7 straight, man. Crazy.
Yeah,
I mean, we'll see what happens. They continue to play. Hey, they're 2 games away from a World Series.
What did the Phillies lose? 1 game so far? 2? They only lost to the Braves once.
They lost to one.
They swept the first round. They only had 1 loss against the Braves. So they're, 6-1?
2 teams that look like they're on a mission. They're playing in a World Series that maybe not a lot of people would. How about the Final Four though? Rangers.
Hey, but think about it. The 2 teams probably the hottest right now, the Rangers and the Phillies. Good money well spent, huh?
Guess so.
Harper, Schwarber, Real Muto.
Nick Castellanos killing the ball. Corey Seager looks great.
Trey Turner.
Aldalis Garcia looks great. I mean,
Turner, Seager, Semien.
It's all coming together. But who would have thought? Like, think about those 2 franchises. The 2 of the 4 franchises
Max
right
Scherzer's going to pitch Game 3.
I know. 2 of the 4 franchises that are in the AL or in the LCS series right now have been pretty pitiful for quite some time. The Diamondbacks haven't been doing NLCS since 2007, and then the Rangers haven't been to a World Series since 2011. So these 2 franchises have been awful.
And then Jordan Montgomery pitched a great Game 1.
Yeah, what else is new?
He was on the Yankees.
Yeah, Sonny Gray pitched pretty well in the postseason this year too.
Chapman gave up a home run.
Yeah, well, that's the same old. Him and Houston have a good old love-hate relationship. But I was just talking about 2 of the 4 teams in the LCS of having kind of losing seasons. It's gonna relate to the NFL, bring it over to the NFL. I was just talking to somebody yesterday, one of my good friends, and he came up with, and it's what we're going to talk about in the NFL right now. And he says it's not been as exciting through the first 6 weeks of the football season, which for me as a football fan personally, I love it. I love the NFL in general, so I don't ever think like just watching football in general for me is great. Is great content for me to keep my eyes on the TV, because when there's no football, I kind of lose my my mind, because football is, to me, is the best sport in the world. But when you look at this season too, and he makes some good points. Been a lot of sloppy play. I feel like last night was just a perfect representation of the NFL referee crews in general this year. It's been awful. Taking over call. Like, Ted, I know you're a referee. I get it. And I don't want to come at all you guys, but like referees just need to cut the shit, because it's getting enough is enough. How many penalties were there last night? About like almost 20 penalties between the 2 teams. Couple weeks, the Niners and Browns game, there was like 23 penalties. It's just like,
for
I get it. Some calls,
203 yards.
Some calls are made to be made, but some calls just leave it alone. Like just like I said, cut the shit, because you're taking over these games, you're ruining it. But you also got to take into the context of why the NFL's been like up and down. Look at the injuries, man. Each and every week, the injuries continue to pile up, and we're talking about some of the biggest names in football that continue to go down. That's the sad part. Anthony Richardson looks like he's going to be done. Jimmy G, Daniel Jones, Aaron Rodgers, just some of the names in general. Cooper Kupp.
Other than Aaron Rodgers, he's the only major quarterback that we have to worry about. All the other major quarterbacks are still in play. You sent me the list in Colin. All those top 10 guys, they're all good. So as long as the starting quarterbacks are there, we're good.
But maybe the quarterbacks have kind of also a little subliminal message of saying, in the sense of the NFL right now, where maybe it's lacking not a true alpha dog, a true juggernaut. When you look at the NFL right now, in the sense of, I don't know, tiers or like the powers of the NFL. Like last year, you were like, okay, the Eagles are like top dog, the Chiefs. But this year, you're like, okay, the Eagles still really good, but have question marks, major question marks moving forward. The Chiefs really good, still have some questions filling out their roster and seeing if they can. What's going on out here? We got the peanut gallery, freaking Florida people losing their minds. But when you think about it, does it hurt the NFL right now that there isn't a true or an alpha of the NFL?
No.
Like, because
I don't know.
I got a fan that's look, I got one of my
it.
friends that love watching football, but texted me saying he just doesn't feel the same excitement as he has in the past seasons. What would you think is the reason about that?
I don't know. I mean, there's no practice. There's no preseason. I mean, it is what it is. The first month of football is your preseason. Football is going to get better in the next 2 to 3 months. We're in October. Football's starting to get better. You're starting to see teams,
I think so.
separate themselves. What do we got? 4 or 5 teams that are 5-1.
5 teams
Miami,
that are 5-1 right now. Yep.
3 in the NFC, 2 in the AFC.
Yeah.
So there's good football. Though, like when we were watching the 4 o'clock games the other day, we're like, there were some bad games. Like the Raiders-Patriots game was uninteresting. It kind of got interesting at the end. Really, the games are quiet for the first 3 hours, and then you hit the witching hour, and then that's when the games get excited. Literally, the fourth quarter.
Is it because there hasn't been any marquee match? Is that there hasn't been any marquee matchups? It's starting to be like the NBA.
It's starting to be like the NBA, where all you got to do is watch the fourth quarter. Really. That's where the exciting part happens. All these games are dull, and then all of a sudden, fourth quarter, here we go, baby. Rock and roll. Listen, it's exciting. I mean, the Giants game, some people say, it sucked, whatever, it's boring. It was a good game. Interesting game. Mm-hmm. Had you kind of like by the balls of your feet, like, okay, what's going to happen? I mean, of course, no one really cares because the Giants stink and the Bills, but you wanted to find out what was going to go on. I mean, the Cowboys game last night was a good and bad game. I don't really know. I mean, bad.
You could just see how that game was going to play out. That's just that's your typical Charger.
I told my coworker last night, I know how this story. It's like Hallmark. I know exactly. Different movie, same script. I knew exactly that the Cowboys were going to win 20-17. Either Chargers.
You knew they were going to win 20-17
when they came down. I'm like, they're going to kick a field goal. I thought Dallas was going to when they got the I thought they were going to run the clock all the way down and kick a game-winning field goal, and that's how the game was going to end. Yeah. You just knew it. The Chargers could not block the Cowboys' defensive line. Herbert was under duress all night. They could not run the football last night. Eckler's effect had no effect. So,
but is that a big deal? Like to see that all these teams
right now, their offensive line suck.
Ted, that's the thing. Also,
it has to do with the offensive lines and.
I get it, but there's like not even just the offensive line, but like all the teams, even the teams that are contenders or in that kind of group of teams that have a legit potential shot of making the deep run. There's all major questions. Except I see like two teams. I see one team right now that doesn't.
Listen, at the end of the day, this is what we talk about all the time in college football, college basketball, all these other sports. Would we rather just have the 4 best teams and the most dominant teams, or would we rather have parity where every team going into the playoffs could win? That's what we have right now. We don't have a dominant team. Sorry, we don't have the 07 Patriots. We don't have one of those teams. 49ers are the closest thing to it, but Purdy is their weak link because without his Superman and Batman and Deebo Samuel and Christian McCaffrey, he's just a plain-ass regular quarterback who's not good enough. That's plain and simple. We know they're good. Their biggest flaw is their injuries. Trent Williams hurt, McCaffrey's hurt, Debo's out. The Browns' defense is legit.
Yeah.
Bringing in Jim Schwartz for the Browns was the best move they made. Their defense is legit, one of the 3 or 4 best defense. Them, the Jets, and 49ers are elite defenses.
Well, that's where the term any given Sunday, man.
It's not just quarterbacks. You guys questions that you could see with the Eagles with Steichen going to the Colts. There's not a camaraderie with Brian Johnson, the new offensive coordinator, and Jalen Hurts yet. And I feel like Hurts is trying to force the ball to A.J. Brown a lot. You could see it. But people want to talk about the Eagles, they're not as good. They're still 5-1. How many teams in the NFL would love to be 5-1 right now? They're like this right now. They're a roller coaster. Wait till the Eagles play better football. So it's going to take time. If you're one of those teams, like you don't want to peak too early. The Chiefs, their defense has kind of carried them. Mahomes has not been the reason why this team's really 5-1. It's been the defense. The defense has been the main reason. I mean, you go through these teams. Miami, we were talking about yesterday. They really haven't played no one. And the one team they played, the Bills, they got spanked. Now the Miami's got a tough game. I believe they have. They have the Philly this weekend. I believe in a week or two, they're playing in Frankfurt, Germany against the Chiefs. So they got some matchups coming up. The Bengals, maybe the Bengals are the team we're not talking about that might hit their stride late, right? They're the team that kind of stumbled off the blocks, and now they seem, they put 2-3 wins in a row. So, the rate – listen, there's a lot of question marks. I don't have a problem. Right now, football is exciting because you really don't know what's going to happen. You really don't. The Jets beating the Eagles. That's fun. It was exciting. It was a good game. The Giants almost beating the Bills. That was fun and exciting. There's a lot of question marks. There's a lot of unanswered questions going forth. Yes, you are right, Trev. There is a lot of injuries. The main thing though is the quarterbacks are all healthy, except for Aaron Rodgers. I mean, if I'm a Jets fan, I'm 3-3. I'm like, damn, we still got a chance, at least to make the playoffs. And we'll see what happens with Aaron Rodgers. But imagine if Aaron Rodgers playing. Maybe this team is 5-1. Maybe they're the team of the AFC. Considering, this defense is kind of shut down. Josh Allen, Patrick Mahomes, and Jalen Hurts. I believe they have 9 picks against those 3 quarterbacks and only giving up 4 touchdowns.
But that's also my take on this NFL season is that I come in every week and I watch these teams, all 32 teams, and specifically the teams of like, the elites or like the top teams in that above average category too. And there's always teams that I watch and I'm just like sitting there and I'm like, some of these teams every week is different. Like their identity changes in and out. Even the Eagles, last year's identity was them running the football and just taking care of the football, being smart. This year, it's like it looks like they want to force more of the throwing where Jalen Hurts
is not running the football.
I know his strength is more of running, setting up play action. The Bills, the only 2 players you could trust on that team is Josh Allen and Stephon Diggs in the sense of offense. Like you don't know what to expect with their offense. The Chiefs, what are they going to do each and every week? The 49ers probably are the only team that you're like, okay, well, they got injured this week, but like you think, okay, they're going to run the ball, play smart with Purdy. To me, though, the only team that I see week in and week out that knows what they're going to do for 60 minutes, I guess I can use the term, is bite the kneecaps. I'm sorry if that makes it that much obvious or that more obvious. But it's the Detroit Lions. They know what they're going to do week in and week out. They're going to come in. They're going to punch you in the mouth. They're going to run the football. They're going to play action with Jared Goff. And they're going to get a defense that's a stingy defense. It's not the Cleveland Browns, not the New York Jets, the 49ers, the Cowboys, the Eagles type defense. But it's a defense that is there and is going to be there in the end, that gets to the quarterback, causes turnovers. I know they lost Cam Sutton. They lost Chauncey Gardner-Johnson, 2 big losses in secondary. But this is
here's the other
and this is a team
David Montgomery.
Yes, David Montgomery's now out. But guess what? They got a nice guy like Jahmyr Gibbs and Josh Reynolds.
Well, Trev, you're excited, huh?
Thank God. Thank God.
But David Montgomery is the tone setter on that team. He's been
But that's what I'm talking about. Another big injury. Christian McCaffrey going down this week. I'm trying to just think of names off. The Deebo Samuel going off. Cooper Kupp having the injury in the beginning of the season. Justin Jefferson going down last week. Like I'm not just talking about the quarterback.
Justin Fields is out this week.
Justin Fields. These are just some of the bigger names. When we think of the NFL, I'm not talking about like, the Tom Brady or Patrick Mahomes or something like that or Peyton Manning. No, these are guys that just all around some of the bigger names in the football world. And to see them each and every week go down, that's why the Detroit Lions, they're dealing with injuries. But they know what they want to do week in and week out. Where I don't know what the Philadelphia Eagles want to do this week. I don't know what the Miami Dolphins want to do this week. I don't know what the Chiefs want to do.
5-1.
I get it. They're all 5-1, but they still have major question marks where you're like, the Lions, they're all in on Jared Goff. It looks like they might be trying to get a long-term deal done with him, which who would have thought 2 years ago? We thought Jared Goff's career they're going to be looking for a quarterback in the future. Look at that. Maybe they got their franchise guy. They got a dominant run game. I know Montgomery's going to be out now. They got one of the best offensive lines in football. They have a solid-ass defense. They got great weapons led by Amon-Ra St. Brown. Like this team overall, they feed off of their coach each and every week. I know what they're going to do. They should be 6-0 if it wasn't for a little blemish loss to the Seahawks in overtime. They should be 6-0. They've beaten their last 4 opponents, Ted, by double digits. Like this is the thing. We're all talking about, the Eagles, the Niners, the Chiefs, the Bills, the Cowboys. Hell, the Detroit Lions, realistically, and this is why I said at the beginning of the show, who would have thought the LCS is 2 teams that have been dealing with some pitiful play in baseball, in the Diamondbacks and the Texas Rangers. Well, look at the Detroit Lions. If any smart football fan knows the Detroit Lions, they've wasted 2 of the greatest players in the history of the NFL in Barry Sanders and Calvin Johnson. And hell, maybe you can even add Matthew Stafford to that list. But now look at this. This has been a franchise that has been continuously a laughingstock at the bottom of the barrel, has been pushed around, beat up, embarrassed. 0-16 team. We should also mind you that this is a historic team in the sense for the wrong reasons. But now look at them. When Dan Campbell got hired, people were like, why did they hire him? And then he had his press conference. We're going to bite people's kneecaps. And people thought he was out of his effing mind. Well, 2 years later, I forgot how many years. I should know this. How many years he's been in the league. It's been 2 or 3 years.
Dan Campbell?
Yeah, I think he's been
been
head
in the league
coach.
dude, he's been in the league.
Well, you know what I mean? Head coach of the Detroit Lions for 2 or 3 years. But now looking back at it, you're like, holy shit. They're really biting people. They're really biting people's kneecaps week in and week out.
Well, here's the thing. They're taking care of business. You hit on it. Here's what's key. If we've learned anything in the NFL, it's the offensive line, the defensive lines have the most impactful in football. Because
we've seen in the trenches, baby.
If you can't run the ball and you can't protect, you have no chance. And if you can't get pressure on the quarterback, and like you said, you look at the Detroit Lions, they've had some solid offensive picks. Yeah, Decker at left tackle, Penny Sewell right tackle. They have one of the best centers in football.
Frank Ragnow.
I know.
He's been an all-pro. He's been all-pro type level.
He's going to be a Pro Bowl tight end for years to come. Sam Laporta, the tight end, rookie tight end. Jamison Williams, Josh Reynolds, Amon St. Brown. They had a two-headed monster in running back, a quarterback that runs play action. They got a great offensive coordinator. Thank you, Jacksonville Jaguars, for taking Trayvon Walker because
we all knew that was going to be.
I knew it because it was the hype, and they ran into every effing time. He ran for it big. Man, just look at the production.
Who's the better? I hate all this tape. I hate all this.
Here's the thing: Trayvon Walker was a great player. He was also surrounded by what?
He was great on a great defense, with an all-time great defense. Well, here's my thing. Just Michigan put on the tape. Really why do we need measurements? Why do we need hand measurements? Speed. Like, put on the tape and just see who is the better overall player. And if anybody had a brain, that's why Trent Baalke is sometimes an idiot, sitting back saying, hey, good for the Detroit Lions, got the hometown guy. But if you just put on the tape, and this goes for future and just present, I get it. But you took Aiden Hutchinson, or you took Trayvon Walker over Aiden Hutchinson because he had the physical traits. Do you know what the potential, I've said it when we first started this show, raw potential can either make you look like a hero or can make you look like a goat in the bad way, in the sense of you're out of here.
Most people take a risk because the ceiling.
I want the proven guy.
Because the ceiling is higher. The ceiling is higher usually.
But Hutchinson's ceiling. Come on, he was a Heisman contender that year, and he was.
I'm not knocking. I get it. We go back in the draft all the time. You say things like this. It is what it is. The draft is a crapshoot. All right, no one knows what's going to go on. Really,
but it's stupid because of all these measurements. Measurements are now.
Look at the Oakland Raiders. They took Clinton Farrell at 4. It's like, people take
when they could have taken Josh Allen. Look, Josh Allen right now. I'm talking Josh Allen defensive end. Look how he's playing for Jacksonville right now.
He's better than. He's not great, but
he's tied for the league in sacks right now.
Oh, is he?
Yeah, he's got 8 sacks. He's having Josh Allen's having a hell of a year.
Well, hey, listen, they could use a guy like that, huh? Or a quarterback, whoever.
Yeah, him and Max Crosby would be a nice little duo because
they did have another end, but he went haywire.
He went haywire. He went haywire.
No, I mean, I don't have a problem with the league. Okay, I get it. There's a lot of bad teams. There really is. There's a lot of bad teams. The Giants.
I think there's like 5 bad teams.
Well, here's the thing. The Giants, you watch the game this week, I don't know if it's because how poorly the Bills played or the Giants just played a much better game. And listen, anything in football, can happen at any time.
Any given Sunday, baby.
So, and that's why they say, I mean, who would thought PJ Walker and the Browns were going to beat the 49ers?
No more undefeated teams. The 72 Dolphins.
You know what I mean? The Jets with Zach Wilson. We're going to beat the Eagles. Jalen Hurts throws 3 picks. I mean, just it's the way of the nature of the football, which makes the NFL so exciting because when you get to I would say baseball different because playoffs it's a crapshoot, but like in the NBA, you kind of know the better team is going to win more times than not. That's what makes the NFL I think more exciting because you really just don't know. And then the gambling aspect is such a huge aspect of the football. It makes it so much interesting because you really don't know what's going on. I mean, you look at this week. I was reading the thing. Vegas made their money back this week. You mean start on Friday nights, Colorado blowing a 29-point lead at halftime. I mean, whoo, and then the upsets on Saturday, and then you come to Sunday and you're like, the Jets won. That was big money. The Jets had never beaten the Eagles. The Browns win. You know, the Giants covered the spread. You know, I mean, Detroit on the road in Tampa Bay getting. You know, there was a lot of games that you just didn't know. New England, I think it was like 2.5, 3. They lost by 4. You know, like couldn't score. You know, there were so many games that were wishy-washy that Vegas won on this week, and it plays such a huge factor in the excitement and the importance of football. As much as you don't want to say it, listen, they're talking about it on TV all day long. DraftKings, Al Michaels talking about the spread, the games. Football has never been at a more higher, exciting point than now. All right, and
from a gambling standpoint, yes.
Well, just in general, I think just overall viewership of football, right?
Well, because you got, like you said, you got all these gambling sites. You got all these you got fantasy football, which I think fantasy football has never been higher than you just talked about the league. Fantasy football, people tune in just because, not even because they have like a team. If they have fantasy football, they're either connecting on their phone or they're connecting on the TV, and they're always keeping an eye on these games. And then, I mean, I hate to even say this and mention this garbage, but just add in now all this shenanigans of the Kelsey and the Taylor Swift bullshit that's bringing in into the NFL. I mean, it's great for the NFL because, yeah, you add that that person that's never watched the NFL, but like, oh, Taylor Swift's here, so let's watch the NFL. Yes, the ratings probably are great, all-time high. I understand that. But there's so many factors of why the NFL is. I think the NFL is great. Don't get me wrong. This is just somebody that texted me saying hasn't seen the excitement so far. I mean, I even told him, I was like, the schedule is going to get better. It's only week 7. There's massive games coming up, like Sunday Night Football, Eagles, Kelly Green jerseys, the old school jerseys coming out on Sunday Night Football against Tua, Jalen Hurts, Tua, two of the five teams that are 5-1 in the NFL right now. The best of the AFC versus the best of the NFC on Sunday Night Football.
Alabama quarterbacks.
Yeah, I know. Jalen Hurts versus Tua. And then you get down the road, you're going to have the Chiefs and Eagles. You're going to have the Bills and Eagles play. You're going to have the Bengals be playing.
Yeah. Oh, I know. I get it.
Playing the Bills, I think.
Here's the thing.
There's so many great games coming up soon.
The NFC,
Chiefs. How about the Eagles and Niners playing again in week 13? Like, there's so many great games coming up.
With that being said, the NFC South is an 8-win team max this year.
NFC South?
NFC South, if I didn't say that, if I misspoke.
I thought you said the AFC South.
So I apologize. NFC South is an 8-win team. Tampa Bay is okay.
But you can't take. I mean, this week could have been a huge message for them moving forward, but it kind of was
Atlanta is got a quarterback problem. Ritter's not that guy. Derek Carr is not.
So you want to talk about bad contract right now? Everybody wants to say Daniel Jones. Derek Carr's contract doesn't.
Yeah, his is less than Daniel Jones.
$37 and $2.5 million short.
But I mean, the weapons they have down there in the defense, maybe it's coaching, but I don't know. That's a disaster. I think Carolina is one of the worst teams.
How about I got a question for you. We could just branch off of this. I want to know who's your best in the AFC. Who's the best in the AFC and the NFC? Honestly, if you had to look right now at week 7, going into week 7, you got 5-1 teams. Hell, if you even want to add a team that's not in that, you can. But if you really had to look at right now, everything, injuries, they're taking everything into consideration.
Here's the bigger question. If the 49ers are healthy and McCaffrey, Trent Williams, and Debo are playing, they're the best team in the NFC.
Are they the best team in the NFL? Then.
They are. But I think
who are you putting in the AFC then?
Here's my thing. If McCaffrey or Debo doesn't get hurt Sunday, they win. But listen, that can happen at any time. I get it. It's all part of the game. That's why McCaffrey's importance is just as important as anyone in the league because of what he does for that team.
Ted, they never lost a game with him.
And Purdy had never lost a game in general over a game. So I'll put the 49ers as the best team when they're healthy, but Detroit's right there. You know, I said to you last night, you're like, who's the best team in the NFC? I was like, Detroit's playing the best right now, but they're healthy. You got to play that into a factor. They're healthy. You know what I mean? Right now, it's the 49ers and the Chiefs. I'll still take the Chiefs because the Mahomes and their defense is reliable. Something that you haven't spoke about in years past. Their defense is reliable. I get it. They don't have the weapons, but you trust Mahomes. You trust Mahomes in the situations. You don't trust Tua. You've already told me you don't trust Tua. Josh Allen, as much as I don't trust. I don't trust Tua, but I just don't trust the entire franchise. Josh Allen, he goes through these.
Right now, I don't trust Josh Allen in the Bills.
The only team, and I get it, their record doesn't show it.
Mahomes is the only quarterback realistically that you could honestly sit there and be like, I trust him each and every week. Everybody else you like,
Even Burrow.
maybe.
Burrow would be right behind there for me, personally. I trust him. Over Allen, Tua. Yeah, I take Burrow. Absolutely. That's why
I say right now away from Burrow because I need to see him. I need to see him at 100%. He's still not 100%.
That's why I would take Burrow as the second best quarterback in the league. They still have issues running the football, their offensive line, but their defense. I mean,
defense won them. Their defense won them the game last week.
Right now, it's the Chiefs in the AFC because of the trust factor. Been there, done that, and Mahomes, and he just finds a way to win games.
But do they have enough?
You said right now, who's the best?
Oh, I get it. I'm also now, but this is also a future question. Do they have enough? Where you look at the AFC, the Bills, they probably have a better offer.
Here's the bigger question: who's getting the number one seed? Because if Detroit gets the number one seed because their schedule is weak and they don't have to play the 49ers and the Eagles and all these other teams where the Eagles have to play the 49ers, so each one of them is going to lose. The Eagles still have to play the Cowboys.
Let's look at the Lions schedule. Lions got a tough game this week in Baltimore, huge game. Then they play the Raiders at LA, Chargers, I should say. They play the whole NFC North. I mean, the NFC North is awful. The Bears, Packers, those should be wins. Then they're at the Saints, still could be a tough game. At the Bears, Broncos, Vikings, at Cowboys, week 17, and then week 18 they finish with Minnesota. So when you look at that schedule,
that Cowboys game,
if they win this Baltimore game, Detroit's in serious play for the number one seed.
And if Detroit, think about it, if they get home field advantage where they don't have to go to Philly and they don't have to go to San Francisco, that's going to play a huge factor because
can playing in a dome help?
Well, listen, it's going to help them. It's going to balance out for other teams because there's no weather concerns. But I don't want to go to Philly. If I'm San Francisco, we saw that last year.
We already saw that, yeah.
Right? And playing the weather in January and that crazy crowd. I want to go to San Francisco. So if I'm Detroit, I want my speed guys and Jared Goff to be comfortable in the dome later in the season.
But are you putting the balance of the NFC? Hold on, of the NFC, and think about this. What we're about to say, the balance of the NFC in the hands of the Detroit Lions.
Well, here's the thing: their schedule, I believe, is a lot easier than the Eagles and the.
Yes, it is. That's why I said they beat Buffalo or Baltimore this week.
Now in the AFC, I look at it the same way. Chiefs get home field advantage again. He just, other than Burrow, he doesn't lose at home. They don't lose in January at home. They lost to Tom Brady because Frank Clark is an idiot and couldn't stay on side. And then Burrow beat him one time. Well, he's never lost. I get it, 2 losses. So you can't say he never lost, Ted. Someone's going to be like, you said he never lost. I get it. But Burrow had to play one of the best games. I mean, Josh Allen played one of the best games you've ever seen in a quarterback and still lost. So they don't lose in January at home.
So if you had to,
we talked about that last year. Could the Bills get the number one seed? They didn't get the number one seed. It didn't make a difference anyways because they still lost at home.
And
if you're Buffalo, Cincinnati, Baltimore, whoever, you still want to go to Kansas City? No. And the same thing in the NFC. That's why the number one seed, because it's only one team to get that by for San Francisco. Who knows how healthy that team's going to be? So to be able to get that extra week of rest for all those guys, McCaffrey and Trent Williams and those guys to get the rest because of the physical type of play would be huge for them. Same thing with Philly. Philly's dealing with major injuries right now. Their right guard, their right tackle, both got hurt on Sunday. Their secondary's beat up. I was just reading about Howie Roseman. He's looking through the streets looking for somebody to play defensive back because they're hurting in the secondary. So, with that being said, it comes down to health. Who's going to get the number one seed? I still don't trust Dallas as good as they are. And because they are
they good? Are they really good, though?
They're good. They're good.
Their offense still has major questions.
They're in the Super Bowl caliber question. The problem is you don't trust them. Dak played good last night. Dak outplayed Herbert, but I would also say this, even though Dak got sacked and Herbert really didn't, except for late in the game, Dak's offensive line, I thought, did a better job of protecting him than Herbert did. Every time Herbert went back to pass, I felt like there was a guy around his feet all day long.
It was just funny because Joe Buck was like, Troy Aikman was like, Micah Parsons, you really haven't really heard his name. And then late in the game, next play, bam, I'm like, what else is now? Okay, so the NFC is more easier. If you had to say, in the sense of this question, why I'm going to say this, I'm only speaking on the AFC and you'll understand why. Because the NFC, you rather say, so if you say the Lions, okay, number one seed, it's either going to be you would either say it's Niners or Eagles are the most likely. Okay, so if it's the AFC, is where it gets trickier. Who's the team? If it's the Chiefs that are the number 1 seed, who's the team that you say
Bengals.
that's the team that can do it?
Bengals, because they've done it. And I believe they have the guys. T. Higgins comes back healthy. They have Jamar Chase, Joe Mixon, Tyler Boyd, Joe Burrows, doesn't fear anyone. Their offensive line, hopefully, will get it together and figure it out. Their defense is good enough, and their defensive coordinator seems to always have Mahomes' number. I look at that AFC North. Bro, as bad as the Steelers are, they're right there.
And
they beat Baltimore every time, and then Baltimore's right there. And look at this.
Thank you, TJ Watt.
And then look at the Browns. That Browns defense, that team run the football. Kareem Hunt had a good week. Jerome Ford. If Watson could figure out his shit, man, and get it together, that team's dangerous because that defense, as we've seen, just like the Jets, can take over a football game. No defensive lineman in football has beat up Trent Williams like Myles Garrett did Sunday.
Throw him around. Yeah. That's saying a lot. That's a Hall of Fame left tackle we're talking about.
Myles Garrett is that guy too, bro, and he could disrupt and terrorize their game, and they did pick up Zadarius Smith in the offseason. They do have a good linebackers. They have a great defensive coordinator. Secondary is good. Run the football, Deshaun Watson. Don't be an asshole and turn the ball over. And that's a team that can make noise and shock someone, knock someone off because their defense is that good. I get it. The same thing with the Jets. That defense is as good as anyone's in the league. They have terrorized 3 of the 4 best quarterbacks in the league.
Or according to Robert Saleh, embarrassed.
Well, 9 picks to 4 touchdowns. They've kind of shut down. They had picked off Allen 3 times. They had Mahomes, and if it wasn't for the pass interference, they might be beating the Chiefs. And they're 4-2, and they picked off Hurts 3 times. So
because that's the thing.
And Sauce doesn't even have a pick yet.
He was hurt.
And they got 6 or 7 D line, and they were out with DJ Reed missed the game. And they got 7 or 8 defensive linemen that can come get you all day long. So, listen, I feel like the Jets are a weird question mark team because I don't know how good they are because Zach Wilson is such a huge question mark.
You see that Aaron Rodgers might actually come back and play this year?
If he gets –
can you imagine if he came back from an Achilles injury?
They get to the divisional round. They win the wild card game, right? They play.
Well, who's winning the AFC East?
It's either Miami or the
because they might be going to one of their divisional opponents.
Well, here's the thing: they don't fear the Bills, and if Sauce shuts down Diggs, go get Allen, disrupt it. They can't run the football. Then it would come down to Miami's offensive line and the protection to shut down Miami.
And that's
they haven't played yet. So we'll see that matchup coming up because that's what makes AFC East so interesting. The Jets defense is playing with house money, and they're I feel like they're building momentum and they're believing. And listen, Breece Hall is a stud. Run the football. They got 2 studs on the offense, Breece Hall and Garrett Wilson. Other than that,
Garrett Wilson's dealing with an injury right now too.
Yeah, I know.
That's another thing. Trevor Lawrence got hurt this week. Last week it was Devon A-Chain. There's been some big injuries around the league.
Hey, listen, next man up. That's what the league is about.
Yeah, I get it.
Trust me, I know. It's all the guys on my fantasy team. McCaffrey, Garrett
Wilson. Welcome to life. That's how it's been for me the past couple of years. I lost to Justin Jefferson. I lost it more than anybody. Come on, JJ. No better. What was
Who's your best team? You never really gave me your answer because I kind of rambled. What do you got for AFC?
No, I let you go. So for me, also, I probably would say it's either between the Niners or the Lions. The reason why I put the Lions right up there is because their style of play matches up against Philly and the Niners better than it would be like a Dallas, where Dallas is like that finesse, that type of team where Detroit will come in there. They'll run the football with David Montgomery. They got the offensive line to match up with both of those defensive lines. They're going to go play action. It just comes down to Jared Goff. Jared Goff has been playing great. He's been playing top 10 level quarterback the past 2 seasons with Detroit. But the question is, can he go on the road if by any chance they are on the road and they don't get the 1 seed? Is he able to make the plays? He did it last year in Week 17 in Green Bay, or Week 18 against Green Bay on Sunday night. They didn't get to the playoffs, but he still found a way against the Green Bay Packers, who they've been dominated. It comes down to Jared Goff because they have all the tools and the schematics and the players and the identity to match up with the Niners and the Eagles better than I think the Cowboys. I don't trust Mike McCarthy. I think he's incompetent. I think he's a buffoon of a coach. I think he's way past his. The reason why he's got that one Super Bowl is because Aaron Rodgers decided to just go nuclear and take out everybody in the league. That's what he did that year. I mean, other than that, Mike McCarthy is kind of like Sean Payton. It's an average coach. He just has the name, Mike McCarthy. So because it's the same thing, man. Because they get the name. It's like fantasy football when you're trying to trade with somebody, but you can't trade them because I can't trade them even though they sucked. I can't trade the name because it's the name value. Like that's what it comes down to me when I look at Mike McCarthy and Sean Payton, two coaches that have won Hall of Fames, or two coaches that have won Super Bowls, but what have they done since? Nothing. I don't trust Mike McCarthy, not one bit. They probably should have lost that game, but of course you had the two, I'm sorry for the wording, the dumbest coaches in the league last night in Brandon Staley and Mike McCarthy going against one another. For me, I'm still going to go, I don't know, because it all depends on how the Niners look without McCaffrey. If McCaffrey comes back next Monday night, which he could possibly come back against Minnesota, that's game-changing. He might be the most valuable non-quarterback in the league outside of Tyreek Hill. Okay. Debo looks like he might be out a little longer with a shoulder injury. So how does Purdy play? That's what comes down to when you don't have your number one ace in the hole in Christian McCaffrey. Everything just runs smoother. I'm going to go with the Detroit Lions right now. They're playing great defense. They are running the football. I know David Montgomery. I want to see what they look like now with David Montgomery out for a few weeks. But I'm going to go with the Detroit Lions as well, Ted. I can't believe it. It's October 17th of 2023, and we're mentioning the Detroit Lions in the breadth of the elites in the NFL. It's a crazy time. The AFC, I mean, I guess you go with the Chiefs. Because, I'm not even confident in the AFC because the Chiefs still need to find, maybe Rasheed Rice takes over as their number one weapon on offense, but I just don't trust in the sense that they don't have another go-to guy outside of Travis Kelce, who's been dealing with some injuries throughout the season. The Bills, I love Josh Allen, but I cannot see the Josh Allen of every week where they put up 48 points on the Miami Dolphins at home, and then they're playing on Sunday Night Football, and they only barely got by the New York Giants, who have been, to some, the worst team in the NFL this year. The Dolphins, I've already spoke about the Dolphins. Congratulations, you're 5-1. You've also beaten your combined schedule is 5-24. The one team that you've played up to your standards this year, you lost by 4 touchdowns. You beat the Chargers, who we already know can't figure out a way to win a football game the past 20 years with all the talent that they have accumulated in that franchise, and to not win anything, that's the LA Chargers. Last night was the game of the two most talented franchises probably the past 20 years that have accumulated absolutely nothing in the NFL. The Ravens, too many injuries. We got to see what Lamar does. I mean, they rely so heavily on Lamar. The Bengals probably maybe are the only team, but I don't know what to make of how their offense has been inconsistent with not being able to run the ball. So it's not confidently. I can't sit here and say, confidently it's the Chiefs. I'll sit here and just say it's the Chiefs, but it's not very confident, Ted. Because the AFC, you look at it and you're like,
well, yeah, because the Chargers,
even Jacksonville's been playing well, but Trevor Lawrence has the up and downs.
Well, they're on a 3-game win streak, but we'll see what happens.
They play Thursday night, big game against the Saints.
Against the Saints. But
Trevor Lawrence isn't going to play.
I don't think he plays.
Most likely,
CJ Beathard is going to be their quarterback. We'll see
where do you come from.
CJ Beathard, Iowa.
I just had to ask. Where'd Sam Laporta come from?
South Dakota State.
Attaboy. Did he? No, he didn't.
Yeah, he did.
Came from Iowa, bro.
Oh, he did come from Iowa. I thought it was a kid that came from. So there was a tight end that came from South Dakota State. I thought.
Wow, you were so confident about that too. Tight end, you, bro. Tight end, you. Iowa University.
I know. T.J. Hawkinson, George Kittle, Sam Laporta.
It's like you see these week 7 right now, and it's like it's been great.
Listen, you know what's crazy is how fast the NFL season's going. We're already going to week 7.
Bro? What do you expect, man? Happens every year. As we get older, time flies even more faster.
Football season everything else slows up. Football season,
dude. In 3 weeks, I gotta say it because it's a special day. It's the GOAT's birthday. You know who I'm talking about. The man didn't even know his own brother's damn birthday. He looked at me like, who are we talking about here? The GOAT's birthday's coming up. I mean, it's already November, bro.
I thought you were going with some football people or something.
No, me. I don't need no football people. Me. The hell do I need football people? It's crazy, man. It's Halloween is in 2 weeks, literally 2 weeks from today. And then it's November, and then it's Christmas.
Chaz is getting married this weekend.
Chaz is getting married. Then Ted's gonna be a father in 2 months. Oh my God, what is going on in the world? Time is flying, but it's been a fun NFL season. It has been a wild and fun season. I mean, hopefully these people can come back because I can't take the injuries anymore.
Let's see. So what do we got this week? We got
huge Sunday night game.
Hold on. Just slow it. So Jackson, New Orleans would have been a good matchup if Lawrence is playing, but it'll probably stink. New Orleans is home. Vegas, Chicago, no one cares. They're both going to have backup quarterbacks. It's going to be the backup quarterback for Vegas versus the
Giants might win this week.
Cleveland at Indianapolis, whatever. New England at Buffalo. New England stinks. Washington and the Giants. Yeah, we'll see what happens there. Atlanta and Tampa. Let's see if Tampa rebounds. Detroit and Baltimore. That's a really good game. Pittsburgh Rams should be a good game, I believe. Green Bay and Denver stinks. Chargers and Kansas City. We already know how that game's going to go. Chargers on a short week. Kansas City coming off a Thursday night game. They'll have extra rest. They'll be prepared. They'll beat the Chargers at home, and then Miami, Philly. So the later games this week are better than the early games. The early games stink.
And then the Monday night game is San Fran.
Really, the only 1:00 game that has interest other than
is Detroit, Baltimore.
Yeah, then the 4:00s are good because there's multiple ones.
I'm very curious to see how, and I think we talked about this quickly too. Maybe the dark horse. How about? Do you have a dark horse in the NFC and an AFC? Realistically, do you have a dark horse?
Yeah, the Texans in the AFC.
And the NFC?
AFC.
And in the NFC?
The NFC?
Yeah, if you had to pick, if there was a dark horse, I like the Texans though. I like that pick. That's nice.
No, because there really is no dark horse. I feel like it's a 4-team race. It's really Dallas, Philly, Detroit, and the Rams. I just don't think have enough. They're still
Seattle?
too young. One of the Seattle could be. I don't know if I have enough trust in Geno yet. And then I told you the NFC South stinks. It's absolutely garbage.
And NFC North is bad too.
So really, no. I mean, if you want an answer, I'll say.
I'll
say the Rams. I'll say the Rams because I'll trust McVay and Stafford. And Kyrie Williams comes back. He's been really good for them in fantasy football.
Cooper Kupp looks like he hasn't missed a beat.
And Puka Nacua is. They got a two-headed monster in receivers, and they still got Aaron Donald. So
yeah, you don't even. That's the only player you can really name on their defense because they have so many rookies or unknown players.
Yeah, they went from one of the most veteran teams to the most youngest team. So
if I had to pick AFC, if they could figure him out, it's the Cleveland Browns.
Yeah, I know that
because if Deshaun Watson can play just semi.
Well, what I'm saying about the Texans is can they win the division? Can they take over Jacksonville? Because they're only going to get one out of that division. Can the Texans beat? Can the Texans take over the Jags? CJ Stroud don't fear no one.
That division kind of took a hit because if Anthony Richardson stays on that team healthy, and what's reports saying that he might be done for the year, that was another team, the Colts, that you get Jonathan Taylor fully back with Zach Moss. You got Michael Pittman's playing well. You got Josh Downs who's playing well.
Yeah,
you got a solid defense. The offensive line looks like it's coming back into form. That would have been a team that you might say is could make a wild card. Texans I really like too because CJ Stroud, man, I love seeing CJ Stroud kick ass right now. I love it. I'm going to go with the Browns.
You got something cooking. Yeah, listen.
If Deshaun Watson could just go to semi to what he once was with Houston, with that defense, especially what it was on display this weekend, I know that having no Nick Chubb for the year is a huge, huge, devastating loss. But if they got the weapons still, if Deshaun Watson could just come back to being semi what he once was, this is a team that can make a lot of noise, just like the Jets too, because of how great their defenses are. And I know you like to always say, it's the offensive league, but when it comes to playoffs, Ted, you win by winning it defensively and running the football.
Your quarterback still has to make the plays.
But they have a quarterback that does have the potential
if he can make the plays. Yeah, I got it.
Be elite. So that would be like right now. I know we're about to. I mean, in a week, it's freaking week 8. We're already at the halfway point of the season, which we'll have to do a halfway preview of or a recap of what this season has been. That's all I got to say is that if the Browns can, if Deshaun Watson can come back and figure it out and be half of what he was, the Browns are going to possibly win that division because their defense is legit. And in a division that has some great defenses, that might be the top of that. I mean, Baltimore's D is great. Steelers, you already know, have probably the best duo of edge rushers, maybe in the NFL, in TJ Watt and Alex Highsmith. And then you got the Bengals. I mean, that's a division. We just talked about the AFC South. I mean, that AFC North.
A whole nother wild card.
Man, the AFC looks so much exciting on paper than it is in the NFC. The NFC just looks boring.
Because you kind of know the 4 best
teams. The NFC East is a 2-team race.
You know why, though?
The NFC South. Why? The NFC South is 1 team's getting in. The NFC North is 1 team, and then the NFC West is possibly 2.
Because of the quarterbacks. There's no quarterbacks in the NFC. It's Jared Goff, it's Jalen Hurts, it's Dak, and it's Purdy. That's what
it's not even like Lamar's played.
Those teams are the most talented of that, and there's such a drop off. Think about the rest of the league: Commanders, Giants, Bears, Packers. The South sucks, and then the Rams are pretty competitive. Seahawks, and then Arizona. So when you look at it, all those teams, there's such a significant drop from where those upper echelon teams are. The AFC, listen, the Chargers are like, damn, bro, what's wrong with you guys? Bosa and Mack and Herbert and Eckler and Keenan Allen. I know Mike Williams is out for the year, but like, you guys got talent up the ass. Can't figure it out. We know the rest of the division sucks except for the Chiefs, Raiders, and Broncos. The South, listen, the Jags, they're playing better. We'll see what happens with them. Maybe they get on a hot streak and continue. The Texans are there. We just talked about the AFC North. All 4 teams could make the playoffs legitimately. And then the AFC East, you got 3 teams. Zach Wilson is not killing this team right now, so they have at least a legit chance of making the playoffs. And then you got Miami and Buffalo, which are 2 of the upper echelon teams. So that's why that conference, as we thought would be the whole season, especially with Aaron Rodgers, would be competitive. You just didn't know which out of the 7 teams, which team was going to be the left out teams. Could it be the Chargers? Could it be the Jets? Could it be 2 of the AFC North? I mean, could it be the Bengals?
I mean, the Chargers could be going 2-4 after this weekend. So
could be 0-5 right now.
Who's the worst team in the NFL? Quickly.
The Giants.
Well, the Giants played tough this weekend.
Carolina.
Denver Broncos.
Carolina.
Denver's.
They were up 14-0 against Miami and got blown out by 21 points.
It was in the first quarter, bro, and it was against the Dolphins that are putting up 38 points a game and almost 500, 600 yards of offense.
35-point differential. You're up 14 to lose by 21.
They're a bad team.
Stop. The Broncos played hard against the Chiefs.
Oh no, the Broncos are terrible. Stop defending. Sean Payton is just.
Then so are the Giants.
Yeah, Giants are bad too.
Okay.
Broncos.
Carolina's the worst team in football.
I'll take the Broncos. Russell Wilson and Sean Payton are a shelf than what they once were. Awful. They're going to trade everybody except Patrick Surtain. Just saying. It's great because there's only like 5 bad teams. There's like 5 or 6 legit teams, and then everybody else is just in the middle of the pack. Seems pretty good to me. If you're a football fan, seems like the NFL is just doing fine without all those naysayers. But ladies and gentlemen, we are Keys to the City. We'll see you next episode. We are out.
You are now in tune to the Keys to the City podcast.